Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our podcast with Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition series, where we'll be featuring some of our past empowerment grant recipients to learn more about their projects. If you're new here, my name is Edward Davis II, and I'm the Midwest BDC's Director of Grants and Development. Our mission is to decarbonize the Midwestern building sector by 2050. Our focus states are Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, um, Minnesota, Michigan, and Ohio. Today, let me tell you about our granting program. To align the coalition's work with Justice 40 and the Climate Funded Justice Pledge, Midwest BDC has committed 40% of its annual budget to re-granting work, either through participation stipends for our coalition members or through our empowerment grants. We know that environmental injustices have not impacted all of our communities the same. Black, brown, indigenous, and people of color, members of frontline communities, historically marginalized groups, and environmental justice communities are strongly encouraged to apply. Right now, it is the 20th of August, so that means you have only 10 days left before the window closes for the participation stipends and for the empowerment grants. So if you want to apply, first you have to be a member of our coalition. After you signed up to be a member, you can check out our funding program page tab on our website to learn more about the thing. Again, we are doing our participation stipends and also our empowerment grants. Our empowerment grants are this year are between the dollar amounts of $10,000 and $30,000 this year, and our participation stipends, we have three levels. Level one at $750, level two at $1,500, and level three at $3,000. So joining me today is Wesley Watson of Watson Consulting. Wesley has a long history of advocacy and engagement work in Michigan. He has served as the RISE Michigan State Organizing Director, West Michigan Regional Coordinator for the Michigan League of Conservative Voters. And Wesley also served on the Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist's Clean Energy and Environmental Election Leadership Team. Sorry, that's a mouthful. Wesley recently started his own political environment and brain trust called Watson Consulting in summer of 23, with a primary focus of creating space at the legislative table for Black and brown organizations in Michigan. Welcome, Wesley.
Thank you, you all for having me on. This is an amazing opportunity to expand deep around the empowerment grant opportunity. Really thankful to be awarded the grant and really be able to see the work being done throughout West Michigan and throughout Michigan in general.
It's awesome, man. I was reading up on your information from what you do, and really, when you think about West Michigan, everybody, thinks that. I always tell people who ask me in and around our community about, everything runs through Detroit, of course, because it's a larger, manufacturing and all other things. But the second largest city in the state of Michigan is Grand Rapids, and so with that being said, other side of the state, people are really looking at, okay, how do we spread dollars around, and how do we make the other side of the state, the west side of the state, just as business savvy and friendly, but also environmentally open to the opportunities that are out there, and especially how can Black and brown people get involved in it, just like they are getting involved in things in Southeast Michigan. So um, today, we are glad to have you here to give your perspective on what Watson Consulting does. We really want to kind of dive into the work of what your organization does, and also to talk about, just give some tips and tricks and resources on what you think for prospective people looking to apply this year, on what got you through your application process, and then, let us know if you're looking to apply again this year. So why don't we just kick it right off? Talk about Watson Consulting. What specifically does Watson Consulting do?
Yes, so Watson Consulting, I like to say it's a connector. As we think of, as you explained it earlier, as you think of Michigan, a lot of people think of, the Metro Detroit area, the east side of the state. But Michigan is so amazing, so big. It's that pure Michigan again. As we talk about what makes Michigan special, it's the whole state of Michigan. And so, how can we educate individuals And so, particularly within the Black and Brown communities and Black and Brown neighborhoods, Watson Consultant was created as being that connector to connect Black and Brown groups and BIPOC groups in order to connect information, resources, funding, access, and overall just being able to have a seat at the table. Understanding that, particularly working in the environmental field, historically you have historically white majority led organizations at the table leading this work, and also at the table when it coming to decisions being made as funding resources being distributed. How can we make sure that we're bringing everybody to that table, Black and Brown groups in West Michigan? A lot of people don't know that in West Michigan we have so many issues going on as far as environmental issues. And so, it's Watson's Consultant was created as educating those community members, Black and Brown community members, around those issues. Because a lot of times, I'm going to be honest, we don't think about those environmental issues within the Black and Brown neighborhoods. And sometimes, as we think about, what is environmental impacts, what is environmental risk, what is the risk assessment, sometimes as we do that work in the community, do that grassroots door-to-door work, sometimes we talk and interact to individuals. They're like, hey, I'm trying to uh, do this, do that. I have two other jobs. My kids is suffering from this and that, and as you think of it, you might have that child might be suffering from a health impact, a public health risk impact, and that public health risk impact might be connected towards an environmental injustice. So Watson's Consultant was started to connect those dots and connect people, connect resources, and connect organizations to the power source.
So, well, thank you with that. You kind of give us that the background of Watson Consulting. We'll go back to something that I read in your bio about your connection with the governor, the current governor, lieutenant governor, and their environmental council. As the governor has chosen to speed up her free emissions by 20, instead of following in suit with everybody else is doing by 2050, she's trying to do it by 2035. So very aggressive agenda. We were just up there. Some of my colleagues and I were just up there in Lansing at the Lansing Convention Center for the environmental conference they had up there. And she had a chance to talk to us about how aggressive that the state of Michigan is doing when it comes to providing resources for sustainability and decarbonization of different building opportunities, transforming the landscape and the current buildings here in Michigan so that we can be the leader in the Midwest for that sort of thing. um, what's your thoughts on, with your background in organizing and that sort of thing, what do you think in terms of where the state is and the Midwest as a whole on the efforts? And do you think it's realistic that what she's doing with the 2035 goal of free emissions in the state of Michigan? Do you think that's, from your own experience of organizing in environmental causes, do you think that's something that's realistic and possible?
I think it's, one thing I have to credit our governor with having such a bold idea and bold strategy and bold plan. Being an innovator, you have to set these goals and you have to set a benchmark that as a state and as a community, we can ultimately track our results by. And that 2035 goal, that 2035 year benchmark, I think is a realistic goal if the resources are able to come into the community and start flowing into the Black and Brown community and start
Hmm.
educating and building those resources. Currently, as we speak right now, it's the information is getting out, but it is improvements that needs to happen. And I think having conversations like this, also with this empowerment grant and what other organizations out there, if they're thinking about applying for the empowerment grant, can you utilize the funds and the tools to help the governor push the state to that 2035 mark. But you have to have the people at the table. Everybody
Yeah.
has to be at the
Right.
table when it comes to
Hmm.
these decisions and these goals being met. And the funds have to evenly be distributed out among all communities to making sure the funds are getting met. But it's a big responsibility. We talk about the state, but we also talk about local government as well. We talk about
Yeah.
our county government. We talk about our city
Hmm.
council governments. We have to
Hmm.
educate our county governments and our city council governments as well around those funds and those resources. And so
Yep.
when it comes to the education part and the resources and just being able to say like, hey, this opportunity through the state is there. How can we get connected and provide this to the community? We have a long way to go, but we're working towards those steps. I will say that Eagle is working in Michigan through their environmental justice public advocate with Regina Strong. She is making strong
Hmm.
connections throughout the state, connecting towards those Black and Brown and also Indigenous communities, as we talk about the tribal
Yeah.
communities, to making sure that they have the resources, they understand the resources that's available, and also helping and assisting them when it comes to the opportunities there.
Gotcha. Okay. Great. Great. So what would you say, you received the empowerment grant last year, 24 grant cycle. What did you use the funds for? You were talking about advocacy potentially,
Yes.
that you could do with the mission, but what did Watson Consulting use it for?
So I will give a little background on what we did with our funds. And so as we think of how can we reach people where they're at, and so Watson Consultant, working with other community organizations and community groups, who was like, hey, we need to meet the people. We need to meet the people in the barbershops. We need to meet the people at their salons. We understand if, in certain communities, particularly in the Black and Brown community, your relationship with your hairstylist, your relationship with your barber is one of the most important relationships that you have next to your spouse or your parents and your family, your children. And so one of the things we start doing is having these discussions and talking about these resources and talking about the funding and particularly the workforce development opportunities that's there through all these legislative victories that we have and the different fundings that's coming not just from the state level but from the federal level, and then doing that basic education with Justice 40. One of the
Hmm.
things we end up hosting is being able to go up to Grand Valley State University and bringing a bus, a campus bus on campus, providing free haircuts to students and also providing free haircuts talking about what is environmental impacts, what is environmental injustice, what is just simply resiliency. As we think of environmental resiliency, what does that look like? What plan would you like to see within your community when it comes to environmental resiliency? Then also
Hmm.
the skills, trades, and the opportunities that's available that's there to deal with those issues as well. And so we end up really going into barbershops, really started at the earlier part of this year, started in January, and we've been doing it at least twice a month. With really having those conversations, going into barbershops, going into salons, providing the tools, partnering with organization in Grand Rapids called Youth Build, which provides skills trainings and development certifications for young people who's getting their GED, partnering with them,
Hmm.
placing BIPOC youth in those positions where they can get their GED and also get certified to get their apprenticeship and also able to work on some of these projects as we talk about in West Michigan with these redevelopment projects from the Justice 40, from the bipartisan infrastructure bill, from the Inflation Act, and all these other major investments.
Gotcha. Okay, good. That's a good way to kind of like spread it around, if you will, when it comes to um, what you could do with it. What do you think in terms of this year? Well, first off, are you guys going to reapply this year for funding?
Yes, we are. We're going to reapply for
Okay.
funding this year, and
Okay.
also we're expanding to other funding opportunities, where
Good.
we're also working with the city of Grand Rapids as well on figuring out how can we also broaden this conversation out. How can we bring
Good.
community members as we talk about the city's master plan within the
Mhm.
city of Grand Rapids? How can we make sure community is present and making sure those environmental impacts that the community have is being resolved during the community master plan discussions, and that's at the city level and at the county level. We're also hoping to expand into Muskegon County and working through other grant funding opportunities through Eagle to span really not just from out of Kent County, but really connecting from Van Buren County to Kalamazoo County to Barron County.
Wow. Wow. Okay. That's what's up. Spanning the whole state. What about let's touch on real quick the wins and some of your challenges when it comes to the funding. I mean, not the funding, the work you did using the funds. Can you highlight a couple of each?
Yeah, I think the wins is having those conversations with people, like engaging people while they're in the chair getting their line up, or while they're under the dryer, you know, waiting for their hair to dry, engaging and letting them people know about these resources, these opportunities, and seeing community really be excited about these opportunities and resources and tapping in on how they can take advantage of them, and also
Hmm.
getting going further on how they can be an advocate within this work and spread the work as well. Seeing that, and also seeing the young people being able to help provide and get education with completing their GED program through Youth Build, and also being able to also being able to work on apprenticeship opportunities on local contract construction programs as well. I think challenges, as we talk about the challenges, it's really strategizing, making sure how can we maximize
Hmm.
our voice and maximize this movement where we're meeting people actually there. You might go into the barbershop one weekend where, it might be a room full of people. It might be you might got two or three people waiting, for the barber to finish up. But you might at times only have a few people there, but still taking the initial ideas of the project and then being innovative enough to saying like, hey, if we need to canvas the areas within the barbershops and working with the barbershops and working with the stylists and working with the barbers and making sure we're spreading this information along within their members as well, within their clients and their clientele, and making sure they're being a voice and being that good shepherd to others as well. Also, the information. There's a lot of information coming down from the state level and from the
Hmm.
federal level, and it's like, how do you keep up? You know,
Yeah.
different month it might be a new set of information,
Yeah.
and then how can you making sure that you're getting the proper information out to the community?
Yeah. I would say a few things. One, that shows that you are enlisting some of the characteristics and attributes that you did with your organizing. It takes me back to what people say. You guys went and knocked doors. So you go into the barber shops, knocking on doors, and they're talking to the different constituents in there. And then when it comes to the communication piece, yeah, you got to figure out how to disseminate that stuff because man, my email box sometimes so inundated with, hey, this is coming up, this information is coming up, or hey, did you think about this grant? I'm like, dude, I'm not even. So what I've done is I have it labeled in my email, it goes right into this folder, and then once a week I look at the emails, or once every couple of days or something like that. Just like you say, you have to find a good. And there's no perfect system for that, or if that was the case, we'll all be using it. But it's just you have to make sure you can prioritize things as they come along. So that's another
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and
Um,
I'll just circle back on that as well. Earlier this year, within it, Watson's consultant kind of partnered with Senator Gary Peters and hosted a Black Men's Roundtable in
mhm,
Grand Rapids, and
mhm.
we talked about a whole list of issues from education to infrastructure to workforce development to housing to economic, and one of the biggest things was infrastructure and making sure that how can we make sure that black and brown organizations have the resources and tools that's there to apply for federal grants and to apply for just grants in general. A lot of times, particularly feedback from community organizations, they just get so the anxiety when it comes to applying for grants and the applications is just so heavy that I was like, you know what, I
Yeah,
might not even do it. And so one of the
yeah,
things we end up finding out is that through Senator Gary Peters' office that he actually have staff on place that's there to help in with grant development, help with
Hmm.
identifying, what steps if you're applying through a Justice 40 grant through the EPA
Hmm.
or applying through infrastructure grant, RRA grant, what steps that the different federal departments needs within their grant application process. And Senator Gary Peters' office have staff that can work with you hand in hand to making sure
Gotcha.
and review the grant before you submit it. And so that's one of the
Yep.
things that we were able to learn to find out as well.
Awesome. Okay. Okay. Well, good. So we went through all that. It's been great to hear about the fact that you are really taking this stuff serious. And there's an advocate out there, like what we do with Midwest BDC, and how we talk to potential folks and help facilitate partnerships and grant. We're moving into a different frame of support for the community with technical assistance because we know it's needed. We have a lot of questions. We have a lot of people come on our calls and our informational sessions and ask us about this grant and that grant, and we know about it, but we're like, look, we'll help you, but we're already at capacity. So I think it's good that a group like the consulting agency that you have, Watson Consulting, is really out there doing the work that is needed, and you're meeting people where they are. So we appreciate it. Thank you. Um, any last words of you know encouragement or things you would have thought, things you thought of now that you would have done at the time of your application, you can give to other empowerment grant perspectives for this year?
Yeah, I think just some of the you know last few pieces is that always being willing to ask, if you don't understand something, reach out, get that understanding, get that clarity. Also, workshop ideas along with community members. If you have an idea, it's always good bringing along other community groups and being able to, okay, how do we workshop this idea and make sure that the impact in our community that we want to make is actually what we're trying to achieve, and then making
Mhm.
sure that that plan is executed to the level where you both um, hit the successes that you're trying to reach.
Okay. Awesome. That's awesome. And thank you so much, Wesley, with Watson Consulting. We really appreciate you coming on here, giving your insight, and definitely, as a director of grants and development, helping out the regranting committee. I'm looking forward to reading your application this year and seeing exactly how you're going to take it up or not, knowing what you know now. And I think that'll be one of the premier applications to take a look at, knowing what's going on in Michigan and also in the Midwest right now. So, thank you so much. Also, too, to everyone who tuned in today. As a reminder, you can learn more about the regranting programs at our past recipients like Wesley and Watson Consulting and apply to for this year on our website www.midwestdecarb.org. Again, today is August 20th, and we have 10 more days before the window closes to apply. And at that time, we will be moving over into um, uh, consideration of applications starting September 1 through September 30th, with announcements coming in between October and November. So we thank you so much for that. And also, thank you again, Wesley, for all you do. Keep fighting a good fight out there in the community because folks like you and I need to see, um, they need to see us out there doing the work and advocating on their behalf where they may not be able to do that. So thank you again, Wesley. Appreciate it.
Thank you all, and thank you all for this opportunity, and thank you all for providing the resources and providing the tools to making sure that we're making the impact we want to see in West Michigan.
All right, guys, and see until the next one. Take care. Bye bye.